Hello there! In this video, we'll see how to create shopping experiences. We can start here. Content, shopping experiences. We'll create a new one from scratch. So we'll use the button up here, Create New Layout. The first step here is to select what type of page we want to create. We can select from a shop page, landing page, listing page, or a product page. Don't worry too much about it. We can change it later if we want. Let's go with a landing page for our example. Next, we're presented with the option to select a section type. Do we want it to have a sidebar or full width? This can be changed later too if required. Let's go with full width. Now we're required to name our layout. We'll be exceedingly creative and name it Test Layout. As soon as that's done, we find ourselves in the editor. This is where we design the page. Currently, it only is an empty white section. Clicking on this button here always gets us to that specific section's settings. We'll go into more detail about this one later. We might also notice these plus icons below and above our empty section. These allow us to add new sections above or below respectively. If we were to click the one on top, for example, we'd again be given the choice whether we want that new section to contain a sidebar or full width. We can cancel this with the X button. Up on top is another important selection. This allows us to select different viewports, enabling us to get a sense of how our shopping experience would look like on different devices, like a mobile phone or a tablet. At this point, it might be worth noting that shopping experiences designed in Shopware 6 are always responsive. This means that we require no programming knowledge to make sure they're displayed correctly for the various devices and viewports. Clicking on the cogwheel up here brings us to the general settings for this entire layout. We can rename it, enter CSS classes, or change the layout type. Underneath, we find settings regarding the scroll navigation. This will start being relevant once we assigned and named the scroll navigation points. Let's get started with adding blocks to the layout so there's actually something to see. The plus button up here shows us a menu of elements we can add. They're separated by block categories. Favorites up top contains the blocks we mark as favorites. We'd add a favorite like this here. Simply click the heart button on any element you particularly like. It will now show up in that menu. The other block categories are text, images, video, text and images, commerce, sidebar, and form. We'll start with an image. Now we can select from various image-related elements, like a boxed image, a full-sized image, 2 columns, 3 columns, sliders, and so forth. Let's add a full-sized image. We can simply drag and drop it to the section we want it to appear in. Now that we've got our placeholder, we can click it and configure it with a cogwheel in the upper right corner of it. Let's remove the placeholder first by clicking the X button. This enables us to add an already existing image we previously uploaded or upload a new file. We already got one, so let's select Open Media and pick an image from our browser. Finally, we can click Add Media to actually edit. From now on, that element will use our selected image. We have a few more options here, like the image's display mode and minimum height, but we won't need these for our example. So let's click Done. Here on the right, in the block settings, we find a few more interesting options. For example, we could name it, give it a background color, a background image, or change the image mode. Further, we can change the layout settings, adding things like CSS classes or margins. We could also determine on which devices that block should be visible here under Visibility. Below that, we got the settings for rules. This allows us to include rule builder rules to determine whether a block is visible or not. For example, we could set it so that only a specific customer group sees this block. And finally, we can enable quick view for certain elements. Mostly this has to do with products. All of this still seems rather empty. So let's add another element. We'll go with text and images this time and pick something fitting, like this here. Again, we drag and drop this element. This time, we'll drop it underneath the already existing block. The result is that instead of creating a new block for this element, it will be added to the block we already have. That looks decent, but what if it bothers us that the image is on the left and the text on the right? There's no element in the Text and Images menu that appears to do the trick. Well, this is where another feature will come in handy. On practically all elements you can click, you can find this Replace Element button. This allows us to replace this image with a text one. Likewise, we can replace the text element with an image one. Just like this, we effectively swapped the individual parts around. Let me show you another very important feature, editing the elements. Looking at this text, I feel this won't do. Clicking on the cogwheel for text element opens up this editor. We could, for example, add an underline here if we really wanted to. A click on Done closes the editor. Maybe we don't actually need the editor and merely want to fix a typo or add some text. We can do this without the editor as well if we want. For example, this is a nice text. Simply click on it and start typing. We should also replace that image because we can't save placeholders. So let's upload a nice image of a grill. Again, we click on Upload File, select an image we like, and click on Done. File has been saved. Now we simply need to assign it, just like we did previously. Click on the cogwheel, open Media, select the new image, add media, and done. Another neat feature is the navigation menu here on the right. Entering it will prompt us to save our work so far if we haven't already. So let's confirm that we want to save it. This menu allows us to reorder the various blocks and sections we have already placed. Again, drag and drop will suffice. We can also duplicate or delete things here with the buttons right here. And delete it again. The final menu I'd like to show you is Layout Assignment. In here, you can directly assign this new layout somewhere to your shop. For example, you could assign this layout to a category in your shop or to a landing page, assuming you have any. And with that, we conclude this video.